What if cancer doesn't begin with a mutation, but with the environment your food quietly creates every day? Long before a tumor appears, scientists can already see what it feeds on, how it grows, and which diets make the body more or less hospitable to it. In the next few minutes, you'll see how common foods reshape 7 internal systems, and how small changes can shift that terrain away from risk. What if every bite you take quietly reconfigures the battlefield inside your body, sometimes handing cancer the fuel it wants, other times making the ground much harder for it to take hold? Scientists can actually trace sugar lighting up on scans where aggressive tumors feed, and that image is a shorthand for a bigger truth. The foods you choose change your internal environment in ways that can make cancer less or more likely to start and to grow. At the center of that shift is a simple biochemical insight. Many cancer cells prefer a fast, sugar-based metabolism, called glycolysis, even when oxygen is available, whereas most healthy cells typically rely on oxygen-powered energy production, oxidative phosphorylation. That preference, often referred to as the Warburg effect, means sustained high blood sugar and chronically elevated insulin create a fuel-rich, growth-friendly environment. But fuel is only one of 7 interlocking systems your diet influences: inflammation, carcinogen exposure and liver detox capacity, oxidative balance, immune competence, hormone regulation, and the gut microbiome. Together they form the internal terrain where risk rises or falls. If you want the full series on how foods change your metabolism and what to do about it, hit subscribe and stick around. I'll walk you through practical swaps and the science behind them. Let's start with fuel. Picture 2 engines. One burns oxygen slowly and efficiently, the other burns sugar fast and wastes energy. Many cancer cells favor the fast burner, glycolysis, because it supports quick growth and raw material production. That means repeated spikes in blood glucose and chronically high insulin levels create a literal banquet for cells that rely on sugar. Diets high in refined carbs, sugary drinks, and ultra-processed pastries make those spikes routine. Conversely, patterns that lower glucose swings, focusing on non-starchy vegetables, quality proteins, and healthy fats like avocado and extra virgin olive oil, reduce the amount of easy fuel circulating in your blood. A practical first step is swapping that morning bagel or sugary cereal for eggs with spinach and avocado, or Greek yogurt topped with berries and a handful of nuts. For people exploring lower carb or ketogenic approaches as a tool to reduce glucose exposure, know this is one possible strategy, but one that should be tailored to you and supervised if you have medical conditions. Next, chronic inflammation. Inflammation is meant to be temporary, a short, sharp response to injury or infection. When it becomes low-grade and persistent, it nudges cells toward DNA damage, supports tumor-friendly signaling, and compromises immune surveillance. Western dietary patterns heavy in refined carbohydrates, fried foods, industrial seed oils rich in omega-6 fats, and additives tend to promote inflammatory pathways. On the other hand, fatty fish like salmon and sardines, rich in omega-3s, extra virgin olive oil, colorful berries, turmeric, with curcumin, ginger, leafy greens, and nuts, all contain compounds that calm inflammatory signaling. Swap the fried takeout for a simple plate of grilled wild-caught fish, a salad dressed with olive oil and lemon, and a cup of green tea or a turmeric ginger infusion. Those choices don't promise immunity, but they help tilt the chronic balance away from inflammation and toward repair. Carcinogens and liver detox come next. Your liver is the body's janitor. It modifies and eliminates toxins and many carcinogens, but it can be overloaded by excessive alcohol, a fatty liver driven by too much sugar and refined carbs, or by chronic exposure to environmental pollutants. Certain foods support the liver's detox enzymes and hormone processing pathways. Cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, kale, contain compounds like sulforaphane and indoles that help activate detox pathways and support estrogen metabolism. Alliums, garlic and onions, add sulfur compounds that assist liver function, and choline-rich foods such as eggs and certain legumes support methylation and transport of fats out of the liver. At the same time, processed meats with preservatives, heavy alcohol intake, and a diet high in ultra-processed foods increase exposure to procarcinogens and overwhelm detox systems. Practical actions include adding a serving of crucifers a few times a week, using garlic in cooking, prioritizing whole protein sources, and reducing processed meat and alcohol intake to lower the toxic load your liver has to manage. Oxidative stress is a balancing act. Oxidants, molecules that can damage cells and DNA, are a natural part of metabolism, and the body's antioxidant systems keep them in check. Chronic oxidative stress can contribute to cellular damage that raises cancer risk. Whole food antioxidants, the polyphenols in berries, the catechins in green tea, the flavonoids in dark chocolate, high cacao, and the curcuminoids in turmeric, provide supportive, balanced antioxidant activity along with other beneficial compounds. The caution here is about high-dose synthetic antioxidant supplements. Long-term studies have flagged risks with megadoses of isolated antioxidants in some contexts. They can interfere with normal cellular signaling and even blunt the benefits of certain cancer therapies. Favor whole food sources of antioxidants and discuss any supplement use with a clinician, especially if you are undergoing treatment or have complex health issues. Immune function links tightly to diet. Your immune system is constantly scanning for abnormal cells and infections. Adequate nutrition supports immune surveillance and responsiveness. Nutrients in foods that appear to support immune competence include garlic, which has antimicrobial and immune-supporting compounds. Mushrooms like shiitake and maitake, rich in beta-glucans that modulate immunity. Vitamin C-rich peppers and citrus, and fermented foods such as yogurt, kefir, kimchi, and sauerkraut that can favor beneficial microbes. Fiber-rich plants nourish the gut microbes that, in turn, produce metabolites supporting immune cells. Avoiding nutritional patterns that suppress immunity, chronic undernourishment, vitamin deficiencies, or diets dominated by ultra-processed foods is part of the strategy. If you have specific immune concerns, work with a clinician before starting supplements or intensive interventions. Hormone balance, particularly insulin and estrogen, is a major lever. Insulin acts as a growth signal. Persistently high insulin and insulin resistance are linked to higher risks of several cancers. Diets that reduce rapid glucose spikes, increase fiber, and include healthy fats help regulate insulin signaling. Foods that support estrogen balance include cruciferous vegetables, which support estrogen metabolism, and fiber-rich plants that promote estrogen elimination. For people with overweight or insulin resistance, small sustained dietary changes that lower glycemic load, increase physical activity, and improve sleep can reduce insulin exposure and its downstream effects. Remember that hormones are influenced by many factors beyond diet, including genetics and medications, so individualized care matters. The gut microbiome functions as both a metabolic organ and an immune trainer. A healthy, diverse microbiome helps regulate inflammation, produces metabolites that influence cell behavior, and affects how the body processes hormones and bile acids. Prebiotics, fibers like inulin and oligofructose, found in asparagus, onions, leeks, garlic, chicory root, and many root vegetables, feed beneficial microbes. Probiotics, live microbes in fermented foods such as yogurt, kefir, kimchi, and tempeh, can support microbial balance for some people. Resistant starches in cooled potatoes or cooked and cooled rice, when tolerated, feed short-chain fatty acid production by gut bacteria, which supports colon health and immune regulation. Ultra-processed foods, emulsifiers, and artificial additives can harm microbial diversity. Because individual tolerance varies, introduce fermented foods and higher fiber prebiotics gradually and consult a clinician if you have digestive symptoms or inflammatory bowel conditions. Across these 7 systems, a pattern emerges. Whole, minimally processed foods consistently nudge multiple mechanisms in a favorable direction. Cruciferous vegetables show up for detox and hormone balance. Fatty fish and olive oil reduce inflammation and support cell membranes. Berries and green tea support antioxidant balance and metabolic health. Fermented foods and fibers support both gut health and immune function. That overlap is powerful because a single dietary change can influence several internal levers at once. Practical guidance starts with principles rather than prescriptions. Aim for a plate model where non-starchy vegetables make up a generous portion. Quality proteins are present in moderate amounts. Healthy fats are included to stabilize blood sugar and support cell function, and refined carbs and sugary beverages are limited. A typical day might look like this. Breakfast of 2 eggs sautéed with spinach and mushrooms, finished with avocado slices. Lunch of mixed greens, grilled wild salmon, quinoa or lentils in small portion, and a drizzle of olive oil and lemon. Snack of plain Greek yogurt with blueberries and a few walnuts. Dinner of roasted broccoli and Brussels sprouts with garlic. A portion of roasted chicken or a plant-based protein, and a side of fermented vegetables like kimchi or sauerkraut. Simple swaps include choosing sparkling water with lemon instead of soda, swapping white rice for cauliflower rice, or a smaller portion of whole grains, and replacing packaged snack cakes with a handful of mixed nuts and a piece of fruit. Be cautious about extremes and unproven shortcuts. Starving cancer can be a useful conceptual framing when it refers to reducing persistent high glucose exposure or limiting pro-growth signaling, but it is not a replacement for medical treatment. If you are considering aggressive carbohydrate restriction, ketogenic diets, or fasting protocols, do so under medical supervision, particularly if you have diabetes, are on medications, or have an active cancer diagnosis. Similarly, while many plant compounds have promising lab or population-level evidence, concentrated megadoses of isolated compounds are not the same as eating the whole food. Some supplement trials have shown harm or no benefit. Use food first. Use supplements judiciously and with professional guidance. There are also practical considerations about toxins and exposures beyond food. Reducing consumption of processed meats, limiting alcohol, choosing organic produce when possible to lower pesticide exposure, and minimizing use of plastics for food storage can reduce your overall toxic load. Cooking methods matter too. Favoring lower temperature cooking and avoiding charred meats can reduce intake of some cooking-related carcinogens. If you're wondering where to start, pick one small, sustainable micro-habit. Add 1 serving of cruciferous vegetables to your plate 3 times this week. Replace 1 sugary beverage a day with sparkling water and a slice of citrus. Swap a processed snack for a whole food alternative, like carrot sticks with hummus, or a small handful of almonds and a piece of fruit. These incremental changes, repeated over weeks, begin to reshape your internal environment. To crystallize the main ideas, first, many cancer cells prefer sugar-based metabolism, so reducing frequent glucose spikes helps limit the fuel that supports rapid growth. Second, chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, toxic load, hormone dysregulation, immune weakness, and gut imbalance are all modifiable to some degree through diet and lifestyle. Third, whole foods deliver complex mixtures of nutrients and bioactives that act across multiple pathways. They are generally preferable to isolated, high-dose supplements. Fourth, ultra-processed foods, refined sugars, and excessive alcohol increase risk factors across these systems and are worth limiting. Finally, small, consistent swaps compound into meaningful shifts in your internal environment. Here are a few concise takeaways to remember. Prioritize non-starchy vegetables, healthy fats, and quality proteins. Favor whole, colorful plant foods and fermented items for antioxidants and microbiome support. Limit refined sugars, processed foods, and excessive alcohol. Use crucifers and alliums regularly to support liver detox and hormone balance. And view diet as one influential piece of a broader health strategy that includes movement, sleep, and medical care when needed. This is not a promise that diet alone will prevent or cure disease. Nothing in biology is that simple. But shifting toward whole, minimally processed foods changes multiple internal systems at once, making your body a less hospitable place for cancer to gain a foothold. If you want a one-page checklist with the top swaps, foods to include, and foods to avoid, you can find the resource linked in the description. For deeper dives, I've put together a playlist that goes into metabolic strategies, liver-supporting foods, and gut health protocols. Check those out for practical, evidence-aware next steps. Change begins with a single, sustainable step. Choose one swap today, keep it for a week, and build from there. If you have specific health conditions or an active diagnosis, talk with your healthcare team before making major changes. Small, steady adjustments can reshape your internal environment and help reduce risk over time.